Welcome back, guys, and today we're here for another video. And this time I will be doing an easy and a quick way to introduce functions to y'all. And so to get down right to the point, what is a function? You might have heard this word in, many equations, x and y might be involved. Well, a function is basically, you can essentially think of it as a machine. So let's say you're here. Then you have the machine right here, right? This would be your function. And so a function is that you put something in and you get something out. And that's basically the definition of a function. When you put something in, you get something out. And so what do I mean by you get something out? Well, in mathematics, what we like to associate functions with are equations and numbers, obviously, because it's mathematics. So let's say you put a 1 in here, then you get a 4. And then let's say for some reason you decide to put another number in here. Say you put 2 inside the machine, and you get 5. And so you decide to put another number in here. You put 3, then you get 6 out. Now, if you're good at recognizing patterns and seeing what's going on with the numbers, you can see that each time we add a number in here, it's always getting increased by 3. And so what essentially a function is that it can either do something to the number that you put in, it can multiply it, divide it, it can so many things can happen with a function. Like, let's say you decide to have another function that decreases your number by 2. So if you were to put a 4 in here, you'll get a 2 out. Or let's say you had a function where you multiply by 2, you put a 1, you get a 2. It's very, very simple, the function, but it gets more complex and much more thoughtful when you get into the higher rooms of math. But as of right now, these are just simple functions that you can work with in your everyday life. And so what a function is represented by is by the notation of f of x. So for me, when I was entering high school and doing algebra 2 again, because it had been a year and I didn't have good algebra 1 prep, I didn't even know what f of x meant. I didn't even know what that meant. And to put it lightly, f of x is just notation. It's just a way of saying that this is a function. It's just saying that if you put something in, then something else is going to happen. And so let's go back to the first example when every number was increasing by 3. So if every number is increasing by 3, then surely the function has to have something that is always increasing by 3. And since you're always putting something in there, your x, which is inside of f of x, you put it right there. And so what we just did is that we found a function, a true machine. We found f of x to be equal to x plus 3. And so in order to make this function work with numbers, you have to put it inside of the f of x. So instead of having f of x, you have f of 1. And from here, you can replace the x with a 1. And now, since we're both like terms, you can add them. And you get 4. Or let's go back to f of 3. You make the x of 3. And you get 6. Obviously, not all functions are going to be easy. Some of them are going to be hard. Let's say you had f of x is equal to 2x plus 4. Obviously, if you put 1 in, you can kind of see the pattern. You just replace the x with a 1. And if you're smart with your PEMDAS, with your order of operations, you'll see that 2 times 1 is 2. Then you just do 2 plus 4 is equal to 6. And so we can safely assume that for f of 1 of the function of 2x plus 4, f of 1 is equal to 6. And so that essentially is what a function is in the short run. It is just a machine that you put stuff in and that you get stuff out. Obviously, there will be some harder functions, but I'm just introducing you to the very very simple functions right now, so you can understand the machine that a function is. It's in the name itself, function. When you think about the word function, it's essentially something that's being used, something that is supposed to be used. Because the function of your wheels on a car is to make the car go and to make the car stand up so it could be fluid in its driving. For a function of a pen is to write stuff on paper. Function of paper to be written on. Function of a light to be used when there's no light. So you make artificial light. Just think about the function that something is being used and something that is being done to. And there's also quite a few more parts to think about it. So I will introduce you to the function's two best friends, domain and range. We're gonna draw a table. And so let's go back to our function f of x is equal to x plus 3. What you have to remember for domain and range is that domain is always associated with the x. So it's always associated with the x-axis, and range is always associated with the y-axis. And so what this basically means is that, let's draw a little bar graph here. The x-axis is always the domain, while the y-axis is always the range. And so let's take our function f of x and start off with x and y here. I'm sorry if that's kind of confusing, but x and y are on top of the actual function. And so let's write down a few numbers. Let's write down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so if you're starting to get the pattern, if you're starting to recognize the pattern and how to actually put the numbers in, you'll see that f of 1 is just 1 plus 3, which is 4. And then you just put the 2 in for the x. 2 plus 3 is 5. And so on and so forth. And so for the x-axis, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And for the y-axis, for these numbers, you have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And so as you can see here, every time that the x is being put in, you get a number that is 3 more than the number that was put in. And so how to essentially say that the domain is essentially saying what numbers are used in the x-axis. And so since we're using 1 to 6, we can assume that our domain is 1 to 6. That will be our domain because those are the numbers that are being used by x. And so for our range, it will be from 4 to 9. And so we can safely assume that because those are the numbers that the y-axis is using. And so that is domain and range. It will get more complicated later on when you try to find it with just functions itself. That will be in Algebra 2 pre-cal. You will try to find crazy domains and ranges from functions like these. It gets insane later on. But it's a good thing that you don't have to deal with that right now. Well, at least hopefully. Who knows? We might deal with it next year when some of y'all take calculus. Shout out to my pre-cal kids that are going to be seniors next year in Townview. Shout out to them for taking calculus AB. But that is essentially domain and range. Like I said, the function's two best friends. And so that's the end of the video. Hopefully y'all enjoyed this quick lesson into introducing functions. Thank you. If you like this video, please share, subscribe, like the video. It helps me a lot, and I thank you so much for it. That's the end of the video. Goodbye.